The time being 6:30, and this being the Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel, I will call to order the Monday, September 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel. This meeting is taking place in a hybrid format. Members of the panel are joining us here physically at the Great Hall in the Town Hall of Plymouth. Members of the panel are joining us virtually over the Zoom webinar platform. Presenters and members of the public may be joining us either physically at the Great Hall, the Town Hall in Plymouth, or over the Zoom webinar platform. Members of the public who wish to attend the Zoom may do so via the Zoom login information that is included on the agenda that is posted on the Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel website. We will now move on to the first item on our agenda, that being a roll call of our members. We have a couple of members that have designated others to serve in their stead for tonight's meeting, which is authorized under the enabling statute. So I will begin first with Mr. O'Brien, and please identify not only yourself, but who you're serving in capacity.
Pat O'Brien, I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Communications for Holtec International, representing Dave Noyes from Holtec International.
Good evening, Joe McDonough, acting on behalf of John Moylan, representing Holtec.
Good evening, Kelly O'Brien, representing Local 369.
Curtis Little, Board of Selectmen, Plymouth.
Mike Fortini, appointed by the Senate Minority Leader.
Pine Dubois, appointed by the Speaker of the House.
Kevin Canty, Plymouth Select Board Representative.
Mary Lambert, appointed by the Senate President.
Barry Podfin, Plymouth Board of Health, appointed by the Senate President.
Greg Wade, representing the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities.
And then on the Zoom, starting with Mr. Bryant.
For Bryant, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency.
Thank you. Ms. Waldron.
Mary Waldron, Executive Director of Old Colony Planning Council.
All right. And Mr. Lampert.
Jim Lampert, Speaker of the House.
All right, thank you. I will also note, I was asked by Mr. Gottlieb to mention that his absence tonight is in observance of Rosh Hashanah, which starts at sundown. Just wanted to make note that he wished he could be here, but he cannot for that reason. All right. So,
Mr. Priest is also on the line.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Priest? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Priest, I didn't see you, but please introduce yourself as well.
Jack Priest, I'm the Division Director for Radiation Control for the Department of Public Health, and I'm representing Commissioner Goldstein.
Okay, thank you.
That's weird. He's not showing up there.
Is anybody else on there?
I don't see anybody
Okay.
else.
All right, and unless we're missing anyone else, I think that's everybody that's on the Zoom. So thank you. That brings us into the next item on our agenda, that being a reading of 14 CMR 188.00, an act to promote energy diversity. The panel shall serve in an advisory capacity only and shall not have authority to direct decommissioning of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station. The duties of the panel shall be, in relevant part, to hold a minimum of 4 public meetings each year for the purpose of discussing issues related to the progress of decommissioning of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, beginning on or about June 1st, 2019, or when the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station permanently ceases power operations, provided that the panel may hold additional meetings. To advise the Governor, the General Court, the agencies of the Commonwealth, and the public on issues related to the decommissioning of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, with a written report being provided annually to the Governor and to the Energy Committees of the General Court, to serve as a conduit for public information and education on, and to encourage community involvement in, matters related to the decommissioning of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, and to receive written reports and presentations on the decommissioning of the station at its regular meetings, to periodically receive reports on the Decommissioning Trust Fund and other funds associated with the decommissioning of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, including fund balances, expenditures made, and reimbursements received, to receive reports regarding the decommissioning plans for the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, including any site assessments and post-shutdown decommissioning assessment reports, provide a forum for receiving public comment on these plans and reports, and to provide comment on these plans and reports as the panel may consider appropriate to state agencies and the owner of the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station and in the annual report described in the clause above. All right, so that brings us into the next item of our agenda, that being the Holtec report and discussion subsequently. And I believe we are joined by Mr. O'Brien on behalf of Mr. Noyes for this particular report. This No.
All right, cool. That works. Good evening. Pat O'Brien again, Director of Government Affairs and Communications for Holtec International. We'll provide a quick overview of decommissioning work since our last meeting. The familiar waterfall schedule is up there. Nothing's changed significantly on that since last meeting. And again, the usual overview of the site. The red buildings are the ones that have been removed. The blue ones that are proposed to stay. The process buildings in the orange color, which I always question, Joe, whether you actually mean that's orange or not. It doesn't look orange to me, but. And then the active demolition is that little yellow building there. So interior demo, we've been doing a lot of work internal to the building, so if you went by the site, you wouldn't notice anything really externally. But we are removing the hydrogen compression module skid. We're doing abatement and disposal as well. We're doing PO development for the condenser bay TSI removal and the power block de-energization. Wow, I can't talk today. So that's cold and dark. That's removing systems no longer needed during the decommissioning. Exterior, we are working through the wastewater treatment facility abandonment. Conceptual design to transition to a Title V is complete. We did do a pre-submittal conference with DEP back in June. We'll be submitting for approval next month to DEP to do that transition. The DEP approval target will be in December. Contract approved in February, and then hope to begin construction on that transition to the Title V in April of next year. So upcoming activities, and if you have any specific questions, Joe's able to speak to these as the project director. So we're going to be abandoning the flex wells. Those are direct openings to the aquifer, so it's wise for us to remove that potential hazard for anything that might contaminate that. So we are abandoning those wells. We're removing and disposing of the condenser bay thermal system insulation, disposal of the dry well equipment hatch, concrete shield blocks, and remove and salvage emergency diesel generators in the
Slow down a little, please, sir.
Sorry. Yes, I can go slower. So the last one, sorry, remove and salvage the emergency diesel generators is what we're proposing as part of the upcoming demolition activities. So as part of the mass contingency plan, we are in phase 2 for the comprehensive site assessment report, and then risk characterization, which was submitted back in April. We're continuing with the quarterly sampling. And then the Para 3, where we identified the PCB soil pile, that removal is on schedule for third, fourth quarter this year. Reactor vessel segmentation actions. So we have removed the in-core monitoring housings. We have characterized the waste inside the vessel. We have drained down, and we have proposed in the near term reactor vessel segmentation. As you can see, that is a drained down and coated reactor vessel cavity. The LTP, the license termination plan, that's required to be submitted 2 years before you would release a site. It's been delayed until March of 26. Some of that changes are based on our experience with the Oyster Creek one that we submitted earlier this year. Schedule changes do permit a full development of those derived concentration guideline levels for all pathways to incorporate lessons learned. It doesn't impact the final milestone for final status survey or partial site release as planned. And then finally, we continue to make good progress with removing of source term at the site. In 2025, we have removed about 644 curies of activity, 25,000 cubic feet of material from the site, and safely transported that to, majority of that goes to our partner in West Texas, WCS. That's all I have pending. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Do we have any questions from panel members for Mr. O'Brien?
I had one.
Mr. Lampert?
Yep. Good to see you back, Pat. It's been a while.
Thanks, good to see you too,
One of your
Jim.
early slides on interior demolition, I assume it is, but is that low-level waste?
Joe, you know the classification offhand? It should be low level, but
That's what I guess, I was just asking.
Jim, you had some feedback. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the basic question was, one of the early slides showed a lot of what I believe is referred to as internal demolition. And my question whether is that would all be low-level radioactive waste.
The majority by volume is, I don't have the breakdowns, but approximately 90% would be DAW, dry active waste.
Fine, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for our panel members for, yes, Dr. Potvin?
Every time we usually get from Dave an update on the water volume that remains.
yeah, Joe can speak to that.
One more time for me.
Water volume,
The
Joe.
water volume that remains.
Right now, we're tracking roughly 835,000 gallons.
That's currently all in the Taurus?
Yes.
No, it's in the spent fuel pool, what remains in that slide that Patrick showed you with the reactor vessel itself. So we're drained down to below the flange. There's about a little over 100,000 gallons in the cavity itself. We have
Okay.
the volume in the spent fuel pool. Then majority of it is in the Taurus, and then there's some that's still within plant system structure components.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mrs. Lampert.
How many vents or hatches are there in the Taurus?
Mike, I'm on a,
There's two primary hatches.
she's there, I'm on
So there are only two hatches. So during evaporation, there are only two egress routes?
There's two egress routes is correct.
Okay.
But the, I mean, in fairness, the dry well communicates with the Taurus, so there's a ring header that has that interface between the dry well and the Taurus as well.
So how many egress routes then?
You wouldn't transition those, I mean, they're not for human occupancy. There's two ways in and out for human occupancy.
No, I mean preventing for evaporation.
What's preventing it?
Yeah.
Can leave the Taurus.
It could
Yeah,
leave,
right.
it could leave, I mean, theoretically, through the manways, through that interface with the dry well, and then where it ties into the ventilation system.
Other
But
questions?
Joe, there's no heat source or driving force for evaporation in the Taurus, correct?
Nothing installed or artificial, Jack. It would just depend on whatever ambient conditions existed.
Other questions?
You know,
Mrs. Lampert.
is it correct that there didn't seem to be a great difference if the heaters were on or not on in the rate of evaporation? Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. The ambient temperature, if it's forced convection, would have a much, a higher evaporation rate.
How much higher?
Depend on conditions. So it's with respect to surface area of the volume of water, it has a velocity wind across the surface impacts it, and then largest degree would be whatever moisture content's in the air. So essentially humidity, whatever the surrounding ambient conditions can remove.
But if you go back and look at all of the figures that Dave Noyes has given us over the past few months, I think you will find that Mrs. Lampert is correct, that the evaporation rate, or at least the loss of water, which is the only way I know to measure how much is evaporated, did not change much during relative summer versus the periods when you had those on. You just verify those figures and get back to us.
Yeah, we will, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, Jim, over the last week, and we track what we lose on a weekly basis over a 7-day period, it was just over 600 gallons for that week.
I'm not questioning that, I'm just questioning from the figures
total
that Dave has
inventory.
given us.
Total inventory.
I think Mrs. Lambert is correct that there was not a heck of a lot of difference between how much water was evaporated in a month in which the heaters were on and how much water was evaporated in a month, I'm taking all these averages, in which they weren't. So I just, if you verify that, if that's wrong, I'd just like to know.
Yeah, I can verify it for you, that there's more evaporation when the heaters are on.
Oh, there's no question there was more, my recollection is that there was not much more.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll verify that, Jim.
Excuse me?
Yes, we'll verify that for you.
Thank you.
Other questions from panel members for Holtec? All right. Hearing and seeing none. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. That brings us into the next section of our agenda, that being the interagency working group report. Okay, Mr. Priest, did you have anything you wanted to contribute under that section? I know that we're still in a somewhat transitional phase.
I do not. Is Gerard Martin present?
Yes.
Gerard, do you have anything to present?
Mr. Martin?
Good evening. My name is Gerard Martin. I'm with Massachusetts Legal Office. A very exciting report back today.
Is your mic on? Is the green light on?
It is now.
Thank you.
Okay. Not an exciting report back, and Holtec covered some of it. As far as asbestos is concerned, they've completed asbestos abatement at the seal condenser and the condenser bay, the hydrogen skid condenser bay, and the auxiliary boiler room. And we're working with Holtec on upcoming asbestos abatement projects, the CIV's turbine deck, the turbine truck lock, and the condenser bay. He also mentioned the wastewater, and everything he said was pretty much what I was going to say, that we're working with them and hope to get that squared away soon. We're looking for a Title V plan as well as a report on how to decommission and abandon the existing wastewater treatment facility. Once received, we'll issue the Title V plan, will be reviewed and approved, possibly with conditions, and we'll provide comments on the abandonment plan. And then as far as the MCP is concerned, he mentioned the Phase 2 was complete. Mass DEP did take a look at that. We conducted an initial review, and it does look like it fits the requirements of the regulations. It's a little tricky because it's going to be a little bit of a moving target, because as they continue to take buildings down, additional sources may be identified, which will have to be folded into the existing Phase 2 report through addendums and things like that. But it looked like what they've done so far fits the requirements of the MCP. And that is our report back tonight.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from panel members? Ms. Dubois?
Thanks for standing in there, Gerard. As far as Title V plan, that's a plan to decommissioning, for decommissioning the septic. Do you know what future date that might be? Any idea?
I think we're looking this fall is to go through the process.
So that's just an approval of the plan. When the decommissioning won't happen until, I mean, I'm thinking of the guards that are there for the, spent fuel situation and stuff like that. There still needs to be some sort of treatment there, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be part of the plan?
The plan is to decommission they're going to submit a plan to decommission the existing wastewater treatment plant that we'll look at and provide comments, and once we comment on that, they can move forward with that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right. Other questions from panel members? Yes, Mrs. Lampert?
Has it been completed doing a radiological survey on the land from Rocky Hill Road to 3A?
I'll turn to Jack for that.
That's a question for Holtec.
The Holtec.
All the surface scanning has been completed, but the reporting phase remains incomplete.
I couldn't hear the last part.
The surface scans themselves have physically been completed, but we have not compiled all the data and made a formal report on it yet.
When will it be available?
I can bring the date back to the panel. I don't have it on me on hand.
Other questions from panel members? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you stepping in. All right, so that brings us into the next item on our agenda. That would be a discussion to prepare for NRC decommissioning team presentation at the November meeting. So Ms. Gatzlick, who couldn't join us tonight, and I, as chair and vice chair, were contacted by an individual working with the NRC. We had an opportunity to meet with a commissioner a few months ago, and that commissioner had indicated that if it was possible, they'd like to commit to being able to have the NRC present to us on an annual basis. Yes, so we indicated that we thought that the panel would like that, if that were possible, and we were then contacted saying that they could present at the November meeting if we wanted them to, so we said we would like you to do that. And then they had a number of items that they were going to talk to us about NRC inspection results. So then we also asked them if they could cover the items that were provided to panel members in the email in regards to a number of topics. So this is, first and foremost, there's going to be a presentation by them, and then there will be a question and answer session after the presentation. So whether or not they cover all of these items in the depth that we would like, we'll have an opportunity to circle back on that. But we will also have an opportunity to ask questions about anything we'd like to ask questions of to the NRC. But the topics that they would cover are split into 4 categories. One, in addition to the inspection results, as I said, spent fuel in regards to long-term management. What is the NRC's long-term strategy for managing spent nuclear fuel once reactor sites are fully decommissioned, given that no permanent federal repository exists? Indefinite on-site storage. How has the NRC evaluated the risks of indefinite on-site storage of spent fuel, particularly at coastal or flood-prone sites? Regional facilities. Would the NRC or the Department of Energy consider regional interim storage facilities, and how would equity and host community safety be ensured in siting such facilities? Reprocessing policy. What is the NRC's position on reprocessing spent fuel in the United States, and why has it not been considered as a means to reduce the long-term waste burden? We know that reprocessing is not currently allowed in the U.S., but does the NRC think this might be reconsidered and be of value to the energy production needs in the U.S., the new SMR technology, and use in other countries? Dry cast systems. What monitoring and inspection requirements are in place for aging dry cast storage systems, and how will the NRC ensure their safety well beyond their initial license terms? Climate resilience. How does NRC factor climate change impacts such as sea level rise, storm surge, and extreme weather into long-term safety assessments for spent fuel storage? So that was all under spent fuel. The next is regulatory. Site release standards. How does the NRC determine whether a site has been adequately decontaminated and restored before releasing it for unrestricted use? Post-release oversight. What contingency plans exist if radiological contamination is identified after a site has been released from NRC oversight? Oversight capacity. As more reactors shut down, how is the NRC adapting its oversight framework to manage the increasing number of decommissioning and decommissioned sites? Host communities. We asked for 3 topics to be covered. One was rejected, but the other 2 will be covered. So the 2 accepted were transparency. Will the NRC commit to providing host communities with clear, plain language updates about safety concerns and regulatory decisions, in addition to technical filings? Community role. What role do host communities play in NRC's decision-making or on decommissioning, site cleanup, and long-term spent fuel storage? We also asked them to cover environmental justice. How does the NRC evaluate and incorporate environmental justice concerns when making regulatory decisions on decommissioning and spent fuel storage. We were told by the NRC that they could not cover the topic of environmental justice. They did not say that, but I would speculate that that may be related to the current federal administration and its policies in regards to concepts such as environmental justice.
Recent directive in March.
It is.
Yes.
Directive.
So we did ask, but that's what we were told. And then water. Water contamination. What radionuclides are most concerning in water currently stored or monitored at decommissioning sites, and what thresholds trigger mandatory remediation? So they agreed to cover all of those accepted and listed topics that I just went over in the proactive presentation that they'll do, and then we would have the Q&A session. So we asked them how long they thought that and the inspection results would take to cover. They said that they estimated it would take approximately 45 minutes for their presentation, and then they'd be available for approximately at least 15 minutes of questions and answers. We would invite them to stay longer if we have more questions than that, but obviously we have to be respectful of their time and their schedule as well. But those are the topics that they will be proactively covering, and then obviously people can ask any questions that they'd like to be asked. But that is the baseline for what we'll be covering in November. But as it is the NRC, and has not thus far been a regular occurrence that the NRC comes, I thought it was worthwhile to discuss preparations for their arrival and presentation in the event that the panel found that to be beneficial. So I will open it up for any discussion or questions. Yes, Mrs. Lampert?
Too procedural. Quite clearly, there are too many topics for only an hour. And so I would hope that that could be extended, or that the NRC could be requested ahead of time they're coming up to spend a longer period of time. Who specifically did you contact, or contact you?
We were contacted by an individual that works for the NRC.
I know, but the name.
Yes, hold on. We were contacted by...
Is that Neil Shaheen?
He's retired.
No, I think it was Doug.
Doug, yeah.
Yeah, Doug Tift, T-I-F-F-T.
Okay, so I'm not contacting them personally, and then we're all running around in circles, so it'd be better to talk to the same person. I also would recommend that the question period, that the public follow the panel as opposed to the public at the end. And that would make it, I think, better for the flow of dialogue, and it would be also the NRC wouldn't have to stay and listen to minutes.
Well,
That is a procedure we have followed before with the NRC.
yes, and I was going to suggest that we make some adjustments to some items on our agenda that we could do without for one meeting in light of the NRC being here and having an opportunity to, I think it's more important to prioritize that. In terms of the time frame, they estimated 45 minutes. We're not going to be chasing them out of here, but I mean, I think we should be, if they take longer, that's fine. But if they have a tighter schedule, I mean, we
Go out for a drink, probably.
I don't know what their plans are, but social or otherwise. But you know, if they're willing to stay longer, if they're willing to stay through the public Q&A as well, then there certainly would be invited to do that. But in terms of, in regards to the structuring of the agenda, I will get into that. But there were some items that I was going to suggest we eliminate from that particular meeting to afford them more time and more opportunity.
And the only thing I was going to say, I hope they would address this in a site-specific way, as opposed to their comments being of the generic type, that their environmental impact statement is old and it's generic. as opposed to being site-specific, which is what we want.
Well, you will, their presentation is their presentation, but we will be able to ask them any questions we would like, including a question on that, if you find their proactive presentation of it to be wanting. Other, Mr. Lampert?
Yeah, I guess three things. First, we asked about, you mentioned the departure of environmental justice. The NRC issued a Federal Register notice in April that said in response to the president's directive, they had basically taken that out of their agenda. They'd gotten rid of what they wrote God knows how many years ago. That's why that's gone. Second, do we know who's going to be here?
We were not given the names. We were just told that they would be members of the NRC inspection team.
So I guess I would raise a question on that. The NRC has a number of divisions, and it strikes me that the two divisions we want would be the decommissioning and the spent fuel management. You might get back to them on that, because I have no idea. The inspection team strikes me as probably not as well versed as the division heads in those divisions and their people are. Unfortunately, Bruce Watson, who ended up decommissioning, has also retired, along with Neil Sheehan and I gather a number of others. But basically, I would hope that we would get people from those two divisions and not just the inspection team.
Understood? Anything further?
Not for me.
Yes, I have one question.
Yes.
If it's appropriate, can we get some of these issues addressed in writing before the presentation? Some of them seem kind of generic, like the site release standards. I don't think those are going to be specific to Pilgrim. They're going to be standards from the NRC, as one example.
We can invite them to provide written responses if they'd like, but obviously it's up to them what they provide to us and how, in the manner and means that they provide it, but we can ask.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Which brings one other thing up. The NRC has its own release standard. Under the settlement agreement, Holtec is required to do its best to meet a much lower standard. So we really have two standards in play here: what the NRC would require to release it for unrestricted use, and what mass law requires pursuant to the settlement agreement.
Okay. Mrs. Lampert?
Yes. In spent fuel, I noticed one of the main issues was missing, and that's security. And I would like to see that added.
Security of the dry cast on site?
Correct.
Okay.
That certainly a lot can be said, as was illustrated with Gordon Thompson, that you don't have to have special classification, but there certainly can be discussed, because I think, in my mind, security, corrosion, and off-site storage are the three main items. And as far as corrosion goes, I would hope they'd be asked the status of hot cells. Of hot cells, dry, the capability to fix a cracked cask. Like in Switzerland, they have the inside. They're a dry process where you can take the bad exterior off and put them in a new canister. And hot cells are not in existence in the United States, and therefore you cannot properly fix a cracked cask. So it is to our interest and the interest around the country that this capability be fast-tracked.
Okay. Other questions or comments from panel members? Ms. Dubois?
I just, I appreciate the work that you guys put into this, because I think it's good. I just would include the climate resilience in the regulatory site release standards as well, because I think the cleanup has to do with, we're very vulnerable, And there's a lot going to be happening in the next 10 years in terms of an escalated rate of sea level rise. So I think that we need to address that in each and every corner of our efforts here. And I think that you have it as number 6 in the spent fuel, but we need it in the regulatory site release standards as well, I think.
Okay.
And I appreciate what Mary had to say, and I think we're talking about an assessment of security, not just security, right? An assessment of.
An assessment.
Is everything covered, basically?
And we know what exists now. Many of us see the vulnerabilities of current security.
And how long do they?
And therefore, do they have any plans to make it more secure?
And what is the window kind of this
Yes,
particular thing?
exactly. And the last question, I guess I would ask of Holtec, maybe, in regard to this. The ISFI is high up. What altitude? Well, what
75
back
foot.
from Denver, what else?
75 foot above mean sea level.
Pardon me?
75 feet above mean sea level. The previous one was 25 and a half.
22.
Yeah, 25 and a half.
And so is there, and at what period of time would there be a threat from sea level rise?
Tomorrow?
It's a good question.
Undercut or what?
No, the one thing I would add, and this is for the whole panel to know, I think it's question 3 on the regional facilities piece. DOE, I know this because Holtec's been one of the consortiums working around the country on regional collaborative-based siting for spent fuel. They plan to put out, DOE plans to put out an expression of interest for communities to continue to be educated. So this is their phase 2 of a 3-part process. That should come out now that Ted Garish has been appointed NE1, which happened last week, sometime between now and February. So you will have communities actually expressing. So I'm just giving you that heads up. DOE is moving forward in that process to site the regional facilities. It does include potentially regional facilities for collaborative interim storage. It does include reprocessing at one of those facilities. That's what they've put out publicly. No, they'll be, basically what they're asking for is very similar to what just happened with TerraPower, where they're building their reactor in Kettering, Wyoming. They want a community to go like this, raise their hand to be educated, find the community that wants to do it, have 2 square miles, and then build that out with a reprocessing facility and potential national lab as part of it. So there's
Arkansas is in.
Arkansas is where we were working, but there are other collaborative base sightings around the country. It's not just Arkansas. There's a lot in the Mountain West that are very interested as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just a heads up.
Can I just make one more comment?
Yes.
I would like the NRC and perhaps this panel to consider, is it more realistic to keep together interim with permanent? Because one of the downsides of hosting an interim is that they see, you aren't kidding us, we are in essence going to be a permanent. And so if the emphasis were more to finding a permanent, it would make sense to have the interim be attached there so you do not risk the double transportation.
So to your point, DOE is looking at 3 things. One is just an interim storage facility by itself. One is interim storage with reprocessing. And one is what they were calling interim with, I want to call it, I guess, a cooling off period for permanent geological. So it was 3 potential facilities, each having a different path in the process. That's what they're going to put out.
What do you mean the cooling off? In other words, an interim?
So basically, even if you get it to a permanent repository site, there is a period of time before you can put it in the deep geologic. So it would be interim into the deep geologic. So that's the way they're phrasing it, at least from everything we've been told at a high level of what's coming from DOE.
Yeah, but part of it is language, a new vocabulary.
Trust me, I'm waiting to see the EOI myself.
All right, other questions or discussion from panel members?
I would just ask if there's a web link or something like that on that particular aspect of DOE, if you would send it to us.
Yeah, when it comes out, I can definitely do that. We're kind of waiting. We've heard everything from October to February, so.
And one other question, so I don't go blind. I understand DOE, perhaps back in 80 or 90, had produced a map where they had their siting criteria, and then they colored in the map of where throughout the United States the siting criteria listed could be met. Is there anything of that sort updated now?
I haven't seen that, but I guess the best way it's been described to me is the EOI is going to do a year, and if a community wants to short track and say we're interested, they'll go to the front of the queue. And then they'll do the site-specific, area-specific evaluation for whatever criteria they have. I don't know what the criteria are, but I'm assuming it's geologic and all the other things, you need seismic that you need for that. But that's kind of what we've been told. I haven't seen it in writing anywhere.
One
Okay.
quickie.
Mr. Lampert?
Basically, from a meeting at a conference sponsored by DOE a couple of weeks ago, we understood that DOE is working on some siting criteria now. This was a group that was DOE asked to look into how do you get cooperation, potentially to have a site somewhere in the civilian world. But they are working on it. The question is, and one of the fears always expressed is, why not don't you have to get that out first before you start looking at sites? Because otherwise you run the risk that the criteria will be adjusted to fit the site.
Thank you. Other questions or discussion from panel members? All right.
Just one question.
Mr.
For the
Liddell?
NRC, we were asking them about reprocessing policy. Is that appropriate for the NRC?
I think it's still something, they said they could cover it, so apparently they think it's appropriate, so.
I'm assuming they're just going to tell you what DOE is doing, but yeah.
Potentially, right. Right, and we can at least, while they're in the room. So, other questions or discussion? So, as I said, they are looking to spend at least 45 minutes of presentation time, 15 minutes of Q&A. So in order to keep our agenda reasonably manageable and not erode the quality of any of our work, I would propose that a few items that are traditionally on our agenda be waived for that one meeting and then restored back to the regular agenda in January. Specifically, I would say that going through the agenda, we keep call to order, of course, keep the reading of the enabling statute, we keep the whole tech report and presentation about that. However, given the transitional nature that the state agencies are still going through, I would suggest that if we were to waive the IWG report for one meeting, we would save time, but we would allow them to catch up and be able to present on that in more detail at the January meeting. We could also waive the approval of previous meeting minutes and just handle meeting minutes that are available in January, because we can do 2 sets of minutes in January rather than a set every meeting. And I would also suggest, we already have, obviously we have the NRC coming in November. We already have another agenda item on dry cask storage that was voted on previously by the panel, set for January, and we will cover discussion on proposals from panel members regarding adding items to future agendas in this meeting. So by the end of this meeting, we may be set all the way through March, in theory. So I would think we could waive that particular section for that particular meeting and come back to that in January. That would save us approximately 35 minutes of estimated time, and then this topic that we're in currently is estimated to be about 15 minutes, so you're up to 50 minutes out of your hour, keeping the meeting relatively straightforward. So then the agenda would look essentially like call to order, reading of the enabling statute, Holtec presentation, NRC presentation, questions of panel members to the NRC, public questions and comments, and then adjourn. So thoughts on the panel on that suggestion?
I think that's great. Frankly, I'd consider gaining another 5 minutes with the reading, getting rid of the reading of the CMR. I think by now, most of us have memorized it.
Well, there is some indication otherwise, so I would prefer that we keep reminding. Yes, it doesn't. So I would prefer that we keep that. I think it's an appropriate and necessary framing device for some of our discussions, but it tends to only take about a minute or two. Any other thoughts?
One thought, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lampert?
Now, I believe that this is the type of thing that you can make this type of adjustment entirely on your authority as chair, and that it is not necessary to have a vote, in which we always get into the question of, gee, can we get 11 given abstentions?
So,
Chair clearly has the authority to set the agenda.
well, yes. However, we did previously take a vote on specifically including the discussion on proposals from panel members regarding adding items to future agendas. And
Well, what vote are you referring to?
the one, that item was added to agendas back in January of this year.
We've been back and forth on that, Mr. Chairman. You know we have quite strong disagreements as to what was actually voted in January.
Yes, but I think we are in agreement that there was a vote to add that to agendas in January, just the meaning of.
There was a vote to discuss items to be added to agendas. There was no vote to set the procedure that you had the full authority to set and that you have since set.
Yes. However, I would feel better if I'm going to be removing large sections of an agenda that is typically relatively standardized by having input on panel members in doing that, rather than just unilaterally changing 2/3 of an agenda at one meeting. So.
No, I have absolutely no problem with the discussion of the subject. I was simply suggesting that we can make more progress here. And having heard the discussion, you use your authority as chair to set the agenda without the necessity of any vote.
Kevin,
Okay.
this is
Well,
Jack.
Mr. Priest, did you have?
I just suggest that you could just do a verbal poll of anyone that would disapprove of you adjusting the agenda, and then we can move along.
Okay. Does anyone have an objection to me of any kind to waiving for the November meeting the following sections from our normal agenda? The IWG report, discussion and questions regarding decommissioning, the approval of previous meeting minutes, and the discussion on proposals from panel members regarding adding items to future agendas. Does anyone object to any or all of those items being omitted from the November and only the November meeting agenda? Ms. Dubois?
As long as the IWG members still come to the meeting, I have no objection.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other objections or comments? Mr. Lampert, is your hand still up, or did you have something to add?
No, that goes down. I'm sorry. I'll let you go
That's
back
okay.
and look again.
All right. So if there's no objection, I will take that as the assent of the panel to waiving those items for that one meeting. Anything else anyone would like to discuss in regards to preparation for the NRC team, decommissioning team presentation at the November meeting? Mrs. Lampert?
Yeah, just one point of clarification, having made a open meeting error at one point. Can I submit documents to all members of the panel without commentary?
Well, it would depend, if any of the documents contain a statement of opinion, then no.
Statement of opinion by whom?
If you are sharing an opinion with the panel,
No. This is
I'm-
just a document.
right, but documents is a category of things, so documents can contain opinions. So if you, as a panel member, are submitting something that contains an opinion to a quorum of panel members, then that is potentially violative of the open meeting law.
I think that's open to some question, Mr. Chairman.
You may, but I do
That's not the way
not.
I read the open meeting law.
Well, in other words, let the AG describe, recommend it,
Well,
decide.
well,
I mean, I have a lot of materials on spent fuel, for example.
I understand that, but, I mean, we're not like a reading club, right? So,
Well, you don't have to read it.
Kevin, this is Jack. I have another suggestion. If Mary wanted to send an email to members of the panel with a link to where she has those documents without an opinion, I don't believe that would violate the open meeting law.
I agree.
it would really depend, it would be a factual-based inquiry on what, if there are opinion-related documents or statements in it, it could be violate, and that there have been issues with the dissemination of materials in the past. So it's difficult to make a blanket statement as to whether disseminating materials in the way you're suggesting could or could not. But it definitely, I think it could violate the open meeting law. Whether it would necessarily, it would be based on the contents of the individual publication, which I, obviously at this point, am unprepared to comment on. So I would just give you that level of guidance.
Alternatively, Mary, if you are in this meeting and presented the panel in the meeting, your hyperlink to where those documents are located, that would not violate the open meeting law.
Yeah, you could read out your hyperlink at a meeting. You could do that.
I've got to think a little more on this.
Okay. Other questions or comments relating to the preparation for the NRC presentation in November? Hearings? Yes, Ms. Dubois.
Just relative to the last one, water.
Uh-huh.
The water radionuclides are most concerning in water currently stored or monitored at decommissioning sites. What threshold triggers mandatory remediation?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, is persistence in the environment covered under concerning? You know, I mean,
I mean, I would think so.
Okay.
But
I hope so.
Yeah, and with
That's all I
something like
want.
that too, like, it's possible they would cover that, and if not, then that's with the Q&A, you
Okay.
know, so
Okay.
that's either way.
That's
we
what I
could-
was thinking
we can
too.
get to
Okay,
it.
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions or discussion on the NRC? Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to the next item in our agenda, that being the approval of previous meeting minutes. So we were all disseminated a copy, a draft copy, of the proposed meeting minutes from the July meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the proposed meeting minutes from the July meeting? Okay. Does anyone have anything they would like to add, edit, alter, or otherwise change in regards to the proposed meeting minutes of July, from the July meeting before I solicit a motion for their potential approval? Yes, Ms. Dubois?
I have a couple of things. On page 3, where Dave Noyes was talking about the water and all that sort of stuff, and said that he would post it to the website. I went to the website. I was trying to find the right link. Could Holtec just give us the right link for all of that stuff so that we don't have to?
For which stuff?
Let me read page 3. or get to page 3, Holtec will make results of the sampling available and will post them to the webpage as soon as we get that information. This was relative to follow-up questions.
Okay.
So I just want the link. I couldn't find it. I assume it's there somewhere, but I couldn't find it. Page 7, spent fuel heat exchanger to reactor building, close cooling water. That didn't make sense to me, so is it closed loop or something else? I'm not sure. So page 7, end of the second bullet. Page 13, the first bullet, votes to table including DPH and DPA. I just think DPA is something else, but I don't know what DPA stands for.
Okay.
Page 17, the bullet with Rich Rothstein in it, referred to NFC, and I know they meant NMC, and that's it. So I can give you these.
Okay. Anyone else have any other proposed edits or revisions to the July meeting minutes? I did have one submission from Ms. Gatzlick, despite she couldn't be here. She writes first that Curtis Little should be spelled Liddle throughout the document. Page 2, swim lane update, second bullet, revise, quote, since the last meeting, colon, to drain reactor cavity, end quote, into, open quote, since the last meeting, colon, is to draining reactor cavity, end quote. Page 2, Massachusetts contingency plan actions, update, first and second bullet, capitalize P, it's written para, but it should be PERA in both bullets. Page 3, reactor segmentation demobilization, the last bullet, revise it to read application of encapsulant to wetted surfaces. Page 3, regulatory update, second bullet, fourth sub-bullet, revised to read as follows, quote, reactor cavity and dryer separator pit, end quote. Page 6, only bullet on the page, third line, revise it to read, quote, back in January, comma, the select board, and end quote. Page 7, interagency working group report, second bullet, second line, revised to read as follows, quote, it has been 2 meetings, end quote. Page 9, slide 5, item 2, revised to read, quote, ultra fine, end quote. Page 10, slide 10, add the following for clarity, quote, for perspective, a radiological exposure of 10 millirem is received for a chest x-ray, and the average individual receives 620 millirem from natural and man-made sources per year, end quote. It is part of the original slide and is useful information. Page 16, second bullet, fourth line, revise containment into containing. Page 21, 35th line, revise to, quote, for reprocessing fuel, end quote, and remove the period. Those were Ms. Gatzlick's comments and suggested edits. Does anyone else have any comments or suggested edits? Do I have a motion to approve the proposed meeting minutes with the edits that were read by Ms. Dubois and read by me, but provided by Ms. Gatzlick?
Yes, I move we do.
Okay, Mrs. Lampert has moved. Do I have a second for that
Have a
motion?
second to approve.
Okay, Mr. Little has seconded. All right, so we will go through the roll. A yes would be to approve the meeting minutes with those edits, a no would be not to, and an abstention would be to take no position. So first, Patrick O'Brien.
I have to abstain since I was not here.
Understood. Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Kelly O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Dubois?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Fortini?
Yes.
Mr. Lampert?
Yes.
Mrs. Lampert?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Waldron,
Yes.
Dr. Potvin,
Yes.
myself, yes, and Mr. Little?
Yes.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 13 in the affirmative. All right, so with 13 in the affirmative, 0 in opposition, and 1 abstention, we have approved the meeting minutes from July with those noted edits. So that brings us into the next item on our agenda, that being public questions and comments. We will now move on to the public questions and comments section of the meeting. The panel has allotted 30 minutes on our agenda for the purpose of public questions and comments. During this section of our agenda, any member of the public may make a statement or ask questions of members of the panel. Each speaker during this segment will be given up to 5 minutes to make their statement or ask questions. This speaking time will include both the statements of the speaker and the time panel members spend answering any questions that are posed to them. If a speaker exceeds their 5 minutes of speaking time and wishes to speak for additional time, they will be offered up to 1 additional minute to finish speaking, or if they want more than an additional minute, they can ask the panel for their desired amount of time, but speakers are reminded that pursuant to our enabling statute, such a request will require a majority vote of the entire membership of the panel in order to succeed. Once 30 minutes have elapsed, the panel will not invite further speakers to speak. However, any speaker that has already started speaking prior to the 30-minute mark will be given the same speaking time and opportunities afforded to prior speakers to make their statements or get their questions answered. All right, so with that in mind, are there any members of the public in physical attendance? Yes, please take the podium, introduce yourself. You will have up to 5 minutes to make your remarks or ask questions.
Unknown caller.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Shields with the League of Women Voters of the Cape Cod area. And number one, I thought Seth Pickering was coming to this meeting. And I mean,
Seth's
I understand.
retired.
No, but in the last meeting, wasn't it said that Seth Pickering was going to come to this meeting, or was that a joke?
I have no recollection of
You
that.
had no recollection? Okay, well, anyway, I just want to thank Mr. Gerard Martin for being here. And I'm glad to hear that there was an asbestos abatement, and you guys are working with Holtec, for the asbestos abatement. But I just want you to know that I've attended these meetings since 2018. And 2 years before that, they kept talking about asbestos abatement and everything was going great. And next thing we know, Holtec was then fined $200,000 because they didn't take care of the asbestos. And I just want to make sure, you said that you had asbestos abatement and everything was going okay. And, I would like to acknowledge that and make sure that in the future, if all of a sudden we find out that you guys said, yeah, we're doing asbestos abatement, but suddenly you aren't, I suggest that Holtec then get fined $200,000 for every time that they said that they were doing it, but they weren't. I just want to put that on the record. So, sorry. The second thing I wanted to talk about is a couple of meetings ago, I believe it was, and hi, Pat O'Brien. I'm glad to see you. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Nice to see you. That David Noyes asked that the CLAP report on cancer be presented and talked about in this committee, and I've been waiting to hear about that. Are you guys putting that on the agenda or not? It was, David Noyes recommended it, and it was all accepted. You guys did a vote and everything else. So are we going to hear about the CLAP report?
That is in the queue for potential future agenda items if we can find a speaker. That's in the queue, yes.
Okay, I didn't realize you didn't have a speaker. Maybe we could help you find one.
What about Dr. Clapp?
We're working on trying to secure that. There's been,
I have his contact information.
okay.
Okay. And then, I'm not sure how my time is, but finally, the Environmental Engineering Science magazine published a Harvard study that collected samples from indoor home dust and surface soils 46 original samples from houses near the plant, and they found detected cesium-137, lead-210, thorium-234, and traces of cobalt-60 and uranium-235. These were all isotopes that they found were being released by the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, and they were found in the soils around these houses and in their homes. And I would just like this report to be, I'd like to give it to NDCAP and put it in the minutes that there is this report, because I know at the end of the year, you take your minutes and then you give it to the governor, and I would like for the governor to be aware of this.
So you can submit them through
I will submit it, and then it will be put in the minutes, because
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Can you say when the date of the report is?
It just came out. I have it here. I can show it to you after the meeting. It's there. Thank you so.
circulated it.
Excuse me?
I said I circulated it.
Oh, okay. Well then, all right, but I'll show it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I believe it was August of 2025.
August of 2025.
Oh, thank you.
August of 2025, we're
They're
told.
way ahead of me.
Thank you. All right. Any other members? Yes, Ms. Turco. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Diane Turco with Cape Town Winters. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. Last meeting, I presented the NDCAP with public safety concerns that have been concerns for years now. And I was directed to come here by the DPH when I asked them if they would look into the whistleblower letter and the serious health and safety allegations that were in that letter that they also received. So I brought it to the NDCAP and found out that these cannot be addressed. Our request that that the NDCAP advised Governor Healy to initiate an independent investigation into the serious allegations in that letter, that the NDCAP address the serious public safety concerns regarding the security at the Pilgrim site, and also the final one was, let's see, that the NDCAP make a statement regarding the 16 towns plus the town of Duxbury's town meeting that voted for the governor and the state to enforce state laws that would prohibit the evaporation of the radioactive wastewater. As I understand from the rules now, that this has to be submitted, that my letter of request to discuss these serious public safety and health concerns must be brought forward by a member of the panel. And so I'm here to ask if any panel member would take this on and present it on behalf of the public to address our serious concerns. So would a member of the panel consider presenting this as a member so that we can have an open and transparent discussion?
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
I'm waiting for an answer.
Well, my question would be, the second was security. The fact that this will be brought forward and the public can talk to the NRC, would that be satisfactory?
Well,
As opposed
yeah.
to, no, it wouldn't.
Well, I was suggesting that it be brought to the state to consider. The NRC has done nothing. We have already addressed the NRC multiple times on this issue, and we have addressed the state on this issue. And the public needs some response. These are the serious situations that are in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and no one is addressing them. So we're coming to the NDCAP and asking that someone here bring this up, have a discussion so that perhaps there can be a road to resolution. We've gone to the NRC and we've gone to the state. I don't know where else we could go.
Both security and the fact of all the various towns, including Plymouth, overwhelmingly voted in opposition to evaporation and to, for the state to take action, I think are two topics that are worthy of bringing forward. So I would be a messenger for that. And as far as evaporation, I certainly think Rosemary Shields' discussion of the recent study by Dr. Kaltofen and the Harvard School of Public Health underscores the importance of evaporation and the state perhaps stepping up. And this would be an appropriate discussion, and then what comes out of it from this group to go forward to the governor, because we do make advice. We have the authority to advise the governor.
Thank you. Anything else?
So I'm asking, will somebody from the NDCAP take this request from the public and bring it forward as an NDCAP member, so that these serious issues that we have been bringing up for years and years will be addressed? There was also a public advisory question on the Cape on, I think, 20 towns regarding the dry casks and the seriousness of the lack of security at that site. And I submitted a photo of where people have been able to get up right next to the casks on that driveway. So my question is there somebody on the NDCAP who will take this petition and address it via the NDCAP for discussion, for openness and transparency with the public?
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I was interested in the last two. I wasn't interested in the first.
I'm asking that you take this whole, what the public has been addressing for years, to be brought forward for discussion, for openness and transparency on the NDCAP board.
So your 5 minutes have elapsed. So you've asked us multiple times, and we'll have later in this agenda a proposal from panel members regarding adding items to future agendas, and you can see if one or more members of the panel propose one or more of your suggestions at that time.
The silence to the response of this public issue is deafening.
Thank you.
That's why there's no one here.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to give public comment? Please take the microphone and introduce yourself. Okay, you go ahead.
My name is Brian Campbell, retired electrical engineer, and I strongly support discharging treated water from Pilgrim Nuclear Station into Cape Cod Bay. I've reported, after dilution, 80 gallons of discharged water would equal the radiation dose received from eating a banana. Google AI reported that there are over 2 million tritium exit signs in the United States alone, and that the average sign has about 25 curies of tritium, or about half the amount of tritium or less than a milligram in mass, remaining in Pilgrim's approximately 80,000 gallons of tritiated water. The presentations by Holtec to this panel shows Holtec to be a good corporate citizen performing the Pilgrim decommissioning in a truthful and open manner that should be commended. Massachusetts is heavily promoting solar power as part of its plan to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The state's aggressive strategy involves massive expansion of solar and wind capacity, along with significant incentives and policies for utility companies, businesses, and residential owners, property owners. Virtually all of the solar panels are likely to come from China for the foreseeable future. That's because China dominates every single segment of the solar panel supply chain globally. It makes 97% of the solar panel wafers, 85% of the solar cells, 79% of the polysilicon, and 75% of the solar panel modules. Chinese authorities have created concentrated forced labor camps for Uyghur Muslims, where one of the main products they make are solar panels. An open mic exchange between Russian President Putin and Chinese leader Xi took place in Beijing on September 3rd, where these leaders discussed organ replacement leading to life extension for 150 years. China's murder for organs industry has 60 to 100,000 so-called organ donations from China's death row political prisoners per year, where people from all over the world travel to China and finance this billions of dollars industry. Reuters censored its coverage of this open mic moment. Why Massachusetts is counting on China's genocidal solar panels to achieve its 2050 net zero goals, but reality and physics prevent this. Once more, as people become even more moderately literate on nuclear power versus industrial solar and particularly wind, it will be game, set, match for these hugely inefficient boondoggles that do not meet the needs of any modern society and which completely fail unless supported by reliable base load power, of which nuclear is the most efficient and least harmful to the environment. Google has stopped claiming carbon-free since 2007, since renewable energy credits, indulgences, can't do AI, artificial intelligence. The tech bros and China know this, which may be why Governor Healy is suddenly open to more gas pipelines and nuclear power. Maybe the AI industry tech bros have enough money to overpower the $2.3 billion per year anti-nuclear Sierra Club-like NGO cabals, and USA will start building new nuclear power again. In the new AI world, U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright reports, watts equals intelligence. 2025 is the time to build new nuclear power in the United States. AI tech leadership, and not to concede AI tech leadership to our enemies, should be our priorities, our national security priorities. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
I had one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Well, this is a public Q&A, and that speaker used...
This is with respect to what was the report that was...
I understand. We're gonna keep moving forward with public comment, though, at this time, and if this speaker has a question that they want you to answer, you can contribute to that.
Well, what I wanted to do was...
I understand. I have not been recognized. Mr. Lampert, you have not...
Petition to...
Mr. Lampert.
To dump the water into the bay.
Understand.
Panel is not interested, so be it.
Members of the panel are reminded to please wait to give comment until they are recognized by the chair. Mr. Rothstein, you have been recognized by the chair to participate in public comment or question and answer. If you would like to do so, you may unmute yourself and participate at this time.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, panel. I have a question for Mr. Priest and a question for our chair, Mr. Canty. My question with Mr. Priest has to do with meteorology considerations, and my question for Mr. Canty has to do with Ms. Lampert's comment about dissemination of materials for the panel. But first, Mr. Priest. Jack, I know that the on-site meteorological tower was dismantled some time ago. I'm curious if the DPH is still operating its off-site real-time meteorological monitoring network. I think there are 3 sites off-site within the 10-mile plume EPZ when that was applicable. And I believe Duxbury also is operating a 4th site on the southern tip of Duxbury too, as part of that network possibly, but a quick status on that. Is it still operational? Then I'll explain why I'm concerned. concern?
Thanks for the question, Rich. Yes, those, that real-time monitoring system is still in operation and being supported. I believe that Met Tower that was on the Gurnet is now, was relocated to the Harbor Master's office because of the difficulty in maintaining and servicing that equipment out at the Gurnet.
Okay, thank you. This for my question is not so much even about the dry cast storage in the unlikely event of a radiological emergency per se, but I'd like to steer everyone on the panel, particularly those who live in southeastern Massachusetts, also in the Plymouth Pine Barrens region, that the Plymouth Independent local newspaper online over the last 2 weeks has 2 impressive articles about wildfire history, past and even close to present in our region. And the town of Plymouth, along with the fire chief and also DCR, then they're in the process right now of trying to develop evacuation plans. I'm kind of sensitive to, and fire-wise, what you can do to be fire-wise where you live and in the region. Evacuation planning, this is something I was pretty attuned to when I was on the Nuclear Matters Committee as well as the ENDICAP. So I just want to bring this to everybody's attention there. And it's possible that those operating DPH entities, particularly if you can have wind shifts, flow reversals, what's happening there, that could impact evacuation planning. Certainly wildfires, you're not going to necessarily shelter in place. Obviously you want to get out of there, like a radiological emergency, but I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. There's also a survey form on the second article that appeared this week where the town and the state agencies are looking for input from residents on what their knowledge is and what their concerns are and what they would be looking for. Okay. My other comment and question, I would say, has to do with, I know over the years, and I was very attuned to the open meeting law, that to get the materials out in time, even when we were meeting monthly, we never seemed to run into issues in terms of disseminating publicly available documents to panel members, either on the ENDICAP or on the NMC. That could save a lot of time not having to present it at the meeting there, oh, this is available, and then waiting another month to be able to talk about it later there. I appreciate what Mary was bringing up, and which brings up a question. If we're going to be so pedantic about that aspect of open meeting law about disseminating publicly available materials there, I wonder how we were able to get out our annual reports over the years when we were communicating internally on draft reports and information as reports were being prepared.
You have exceeded your 5 minutes. Would you like an additional minute to conclude your
I
remark?
made my question and point clear. I just wanted to bring up a little history and just raise my considerations and concerns, so I'm done.
All right, thank you. Any other members of the public, either in physical attendance or virtual attendance, that wish to participate in public Q&A? All right. Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, that being a discussion on proposals from panel members regarding adding items to future agendas. So, this is an opportunity for members of the panel that would like to add something to a future agenda to make a pitch for that to their fellow panel members. We have, in addition to, well, the NRC coming in November, we also have in January, we had previously voted on a dry cask related topic that both Dr. Potvin and Mr. Noyes were going to contribute to either directly or indirectly. And then we were waiting for, in regards to that CLAP report, we were waiting for, primarily for Mr. Pickering's permanent replacement to be put in place before, because I believe it was a agency-related report. But that, whenever that is...
It was a DPH report.
Right, so whenever that is...
It was like Jack's World.
So that was the, it was part of the holdup, was the
Oh.
lack of a full IWG representation while we're in this transitional phase. But that is in the queue. But does anyone have anything else that they would like to propose for a future NDCAP agenda? Mrs. Lampert?
Yes. I asked you, Kevin, to circulate the study by Dr. Marco Caltafin and the Harvard School of Public Health. And the reason I asked you to circulate it was if a vote is taken and members here of state agencies, and if they haven't talked to their superiors so they could vote either yes or no, and instead would typically pass, which is counted as a no, I figured you don't get really an honest feeling of what's going on. So did you circulate the study?
No, however, though they had previously said that they no longer had that requirement anymore.
Okay, that's good to know. There was a report in the journal, scientific journal, August 2025, of a study by Dr. Marco Caltafin and the Harvard School of Public Health. What they did was sample soil and house dust close to Pilgrim, less than a mile, out to 8.1 miles. In it, what they found from the dust and the soil was that areas out to 8.1 miles from Pilgrim, that the greatest readings obviously came less than 1 mile. They detected uranium and thorium, which confirmed that radioactive particles were power plant origin. They also found highest activities of cesium-137 and lead-210, the closest to Pilgrim. Testing of soil and dust collected less than 1 mile showed up to 20 times the background activity of cesium-137 and lead-210. Elevated thorium, cobalt, and uranium were also detected. So obviously, I think this study is an important study, small but important, and it was particularly important in regards to two items. One is its relation to evaporation and the concerns of people who live close to Pilgrim. And they were able to determine by the half-life of the isotopes whether these were due to previous releases or recent releases. And so I think it would be interesting from that point of view and important from that point of view to add the importance to Diane's recommendation to continue looking at evaporation. Also, I think it's important because the town is interested in acquiring, if possible, the land less than 1 mile from Pilgrim. And so therefore, that's why I asked the question to him, how thorough has the analysis been of radionuclides in the soil? Because clearly you want a clean bill of health before the town, if that be an option, takes it over. And so therefore, I think it would be important. You mentioned that David Noyes would like Dr. Clapp's study. It's an old study. It's a 1990 study. And also the re-review of that study that was done by the implicated industry, Boston Edison, and then the report from that study. You could marry the two on the same date. Have CLAP study and Marco and Harvard School of Public Health. So that's my recommendation. I think it would be a benefit to the panel, it would be a benefit to the public, and I think it is taking our responsibility to provide this information to the governor and others of interest.
So are you looking to have the author of the study, Dr. Marco Kaltofen, as a presenter for that?
Yes,
or-
and maybe he would share the presentation with the doctors from Harvard School of Public Health.
Okay. And it would be in relation to
Evaporation, he said.
soil and indoor radionuclides related to Pilgrim from evaporation?
Yes.
And, okay. So, questions on the proposal?
Was the sorry, can I ask Mary?
Yes.
Sure.
So was the conclusion in the study that that was from evaporation?
No, the conclusion of the study was represents a potential source of internal radiation dose to people in the surrounding area.
But
because in the dust, if you read the study, in the dust it gets kicked up and they inhale it.
But you said that it was from evaporation.
No, I didn't
Oh,
say it
okay.
was.
So they're
I
not
said
sure what
potentially.
they're not sure what the source,
Well, they're sure the source was Pilgrim.
well,
And from
no,
the
but
half-life of the radionuclides that they were reaching.
so some sort of exhaust from the plant, likely,
That is likely.
because there was no explosion over there,
No.
right? Right?
No, that's correct.
I mean, is there anything other than exhaust that you can imagine would cause something like this?
Well, I
So-
think
In the
that's,
history of the plant?
So the 2024 offsite dose report has been put out. It's on the NRC website. We have reported instances of cobalt and cesium-137. So my question would be, is the findings bounded by that? I'd be interested to see what a dose equivalency is and compare that to our offsite dose report.
well, that's why it would be important to have them come here and explain,
And then there could be a discussion.
and there could be a discussion.
That would be, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. And you can circulate the report.
Well, if it's an agenda item, we would, whatever the presenter wants to have, included, whether that's a slide deck or the report or both or whatever. So I would ask, though, you mentioned pairing it with the CLAP report item, which may or may not be possible. So just based on availability of, say, both speakers, for example. So do you think it could stand on its own if necessary, or does
yes.
it need to be paired? Okay. All right.
It would be just like a health study extravaganza.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Potvin?
I believe by virtue of the fact that I'm somewhat of a public health expert, that I'm pretty knowledgeable about this. I've already read the study. I'm familiar with it. I'm also familiar with the DPH's every 5-year report on standardized cancer incidences in not only Plymouth but surrounding towns. So I think what Mary is suggesting probably would fit in with someone else's suggestion that at least one agenda item should actually focus on public health and especially cancer in the surrounding area. And, I certainly can provide some information about that. I can also find additional speakers for it.
So that sounds like a different item than what Mrs. Lampert is proposing. But, because she's talking about this specific study related to soil samples.
And dust.
Right, so,
It is related to elevated cancer risks.
elevated cancer risk. Well, we can take that up as a separate proposal, but I do think that is separate from what Mrs. Lampert is suggesting. I mean, you could make an inference, I suppose, from the data there, but I would take that as being a separate item. But we can,
I mean, the paper makes no reference to how exactly the exposures to those materials has come from the plant. They just state that there's a geographic sort of centering where the problem is the greatest. And the source, because of the nature of the materials, the radioactive materials they're finding, is certainly from fission reactions.
okay, we can have a separate vote on that item if you'd like, but I would take that, I think that is separate from what Mrs. Lampert is proposing.
Do you agree it's separate, or is it strongly related?
I think it's related, but it's separate.
Other,
Can I ask a question?
Ms. Dubois, yes?
Mr. Potvin, so do you think that both what you're suggesting and Mary is suggesting would expand the decommissioning to a wider area because there's evidence of health threats that should be cleaned up?
What I'm suggesting is that there's a standardized incidence rate for cancers, and there's quite a few of them, that are well above the state average in the immediate vicinity of the nuclear power plant.
Yeah, I know, so I'm trying to figure out if there's a past event that cancers are related to, or if it's an ongoing thing that requires cleanup, because the cancers are still happening. They're still, people are still being affected by the residual whatever.
Yes. I mean, the nature of cancer is that after exposure, it often takes at least about 10 years for the cancer incidence rates to go up. So it's the result of something that's happened, I think, since actually 1982 to 84. 10 years prior to that is when the nuclear power plant went into service.
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So if it's historic, a historic event that created a problem that is still persistent.
Yes, it is.
And needs to be cleaned up.
It is
ongoing. Can we get to that knowledge by?
It's an ongoing problem. The cancer incidence rates are still elevated.
But Two Pines question, it clearly relates to cleanup.
Right. As a, I mean, we are the decommissioning.
Yes,
so
right.
not the incidents that happened while Pilgrim
To
was
clean up,
operating.
and any association, which would be important to ask the doctors, to evaporation, for example, then would be related to decommissioning because it is one process that they are using to get rid of the water.
Mhm.
But I think the issue is, they've discovered it in the soil, they've discovered it in the dust, and there would be questions perhaps from Holtec, and we could go into more detail of the methodology that was used. It was accepted, obviously, in the scientific journal, but it'd be worthwhile.
Thank you. Other discussion about either of the two presently proposed future agenda items?
Well, what about,
Well, we haven't got the votes on them, but before we do that, there's questions about,
any other items?
I would open it up to that if there's none. I'd rather.
Oh, okay.
I'd rather we
That's
have-
what I didn't
Yeah, we have
understand.
questions on what's
Yeah,
already
yeah,
proposed,
yeah,
and then you
yeah,
can see if
yeah,
there's any
yeah.
other proposals.
Yeah, yeah.
So any questions on either of the two currently proposed agenda items? Hearing and seeing none. Anyone have any other proposed future agenda items that they'd like to propose?
So I'm talking future?
You are talking future.
Yes, future would be okay. I would like to take up the Department of Energy reprocessing idea for a regional thing, and really be able to focus on pulling together some people that have been thinking about it for a while that know a great deal more than any of us, if that's possible. So I don't see it in the next few sessions or anything, but if Holtec is willing to work with me on that.
Do you have a?
Sure, we have nothing
I
to
am-
do with reprocessing?
I am.
Sure. I can provide
I
context.
recognize that, the feds in Carter made it illegal, but I read somewhere that then Congress took action in the late 90s and made it legal to do reprocessing in the country. Nobody's acted on it. So, but my sense of SMRs and my ignorance of the whole process is that if we processed the nuclear waste, we would have less of it. We could do less uranium mining, and we could clean up our environment better and still be able to take advantage of a new technology that isn't as cancer-ridden as the old technology, and might be better off for it. So I'd love to be able to work with some people to do that in the future at some point, and I don't know how long it would take me, but it's not going to be in the next.
And Pine, I think the reason why Carter banned it was the fact that the end result was even worse than what we started with, as far as the
Well, I
hazards.
know that Carter did it because there was a terrorism threat, but that threat has been exceeded by many dimensions now.
But I'm saying as far as the end result of reprocessing, the byproduct that comes out of that.
And the result is that what?
The byproduct that comes out of the reprocessing process, what we end up with afterwards.
That's why I would like to have a conversation.
Um,
Like to understand the full threat and whether the deep geological burial is the only option or what, because I think we do need to get on a track where we're not looking at this stuff on the hill.
So,
Pine?
Hold on for a minute. So in terms of, for that, Holtec has expressed that they don't do reprocessing work themselves. So who would we bring in, would you imagine, for this agenda item?
Well, I think what Pat said before was DOE is going to be talking about it, and that's what I would do, is I would reach out to those kinds of people, but I'd like to have an open mind on the panel in terms of figuring out what we're going to do with all of that stuff that's sticking up on the hill.
I would like to add that, just doing a little bit of internet research today with the DOE and their site selection for interim storage, but they are looking for community's input, like ours, about the interim storage and possibly reprocessing, because that would directly influence our community as far as the ability to have interim storage and/or reprocessing. That's all.
Okay.
Right, so I think having a conversation would help.
Okay. Mrs. Lambert?
May I suggest that you have both good cops and bad cops? Because there is a large segment of people who are very much opposed to reprocessing at Princeton University, Union Concerned Scientists in Washington, and I can go on and on and on. And so I think what we want are the case control method, if you will. You have the proponents, and then you have those who are opposed, and they each present their opinion, and I think then through questioning, we learn the most.
Okay.
Kevin.
Mr. Priest?
Thank you. So, respecting my fellow panel members, reprocessing and discussions of reprocessing have nothing to do with our charter advising the governor on the decommissioning of the Pilgrim Station. So, interesting topic. I understand people want to have discussion on that information. That is not within the charter of the NDCAP.
Well, Mr. Lampert has his hand up, and then I'll call on you.
Sure he does.
I've just raised a question, Jack. Would you agree that the spent fuel management is part of our charter?
I didn't disagree with spent fuel management. We're not,
Okay,
our focus needs to be on the safe, efficient decommissioning of the existing facility.
No, and I would think, yeah, I would simply.
Interim storage, the interim storage facility and those issues, I concede, I personally don't think that's part of the scope, but members of the panel want to continue to have discussions about safeguards and security of the interim storage that is presently part of the dry fuel storage at Pilgrim. So that's fine, we can talk about that. I strongly disagree that having discussions about reprocessing and future siting and involvement with the DOE is well outside the scope of the charter, and I'll let the chairman review that and make a decision.
May I continue briefly?
Mr. Lampert?
I believe that the argument certainly could be made that reprocessing could dramatically decrease the amount of spent fuel at Pilgrim. I think the other comment is, if I understood Ms. Dubois, this is an area in which she would like to have considerable discussion and learn a lot, and hopefully be prepared sometime in the future to actually move to add this to the agenda, but she was not doing so at this point in time. Am I right, Pine?
Right, it'll take a while to get it together, and my point is not taking on reprocessing, it's to understand it so that we can try and help facilitate getting the spent fuel out of town.
But do I understand that you are not tonight moving to make this part of an agenda item? That's where I'm confused.
I am not moving to make it a part of the foreseeable future agenda item.
Do you want to have a
I did not
vote
want to
on
be
whether to
clear on that.
include it at a future time, or are you, because that is the purpose of tonight's.
We can wait, as long as I can bring it up again later, that's fine with me.
You may. So let's move on from that at this point then. Anyone have any other items that they would like to propose for a vote tonight to add to a future agenda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lampert?
As a courtesy to a member of the public who asked that items that you brought forward be considered, I would bring forward on her behalf, well, my half, evaporation and security. To be voted on.
To be voted on. Evaporation, so in regard.
That's one, and
Yep.
then two would be security.
Okay. What, evaporation, like, expand on that. What do you mean in relation to evaporation?
As a means and practice being followed to get rid of the chemical and radioactive water that is necessary to take down the building.
So as a means of disposal? Evaporation as a means of disposal?
Yes.
And then security, expand upon what you mean by security.
Based on the discussion by Dr. Gordon Thompson that we had here, and based upon walking trips on the property that were described, measures what can be done about the vulnerabilities to reduce access
to the entire facility or to the?
to the ISFE.
Okay.
I think I've got that right.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to propose? Dr. Potvin.
It's not a proposal, it's just informational, based upon what's scheduled for January. Dr. Gerald Frankel, who is a distinguished professor of materials science and engineering, has agreed to participate in our meeting remotely in January. I did inform him that there would be a limit of 15 minutes on presentations, and there had to be time for discussion. And I wanted to check with Holtec to make sure I was correct, because he asked me about the Holtec storage units, the dry casks. I told him that, to my knowledge, the ones in use are called High Storm 100. Is that correct?
Yeah, High Storm 100, there's a variation. One of them is Metamic basket, the other one's not. I forget the nomenclature, but yeah, they're High Storm 100s.
Because he obviously has a lot of information about structural integrity of a variety of different metals and things that are used in dry casks.
Where is this guy from?
Understood. We also
Ohio
make
State
our own
University.
material that's proprietary, so.
Okay. Any other proposals for future agenda items that anyone would like to make tonight? All right. So I count 4 items that people have brought up. So we will take a vote on each of the 4 separately, one at a time. I will remind folks that in order to add an item, we will require a majority vote. So, and it's a majority vote of the entire panel. So that would require 11 would be the magic number in the affirmative. So the first
Chairman,
one.
may I ask a question?
You may, Mr. Lampert.
I guess my question is whether the state is prepared to vote on these, because if not, I would suggest we put it off until the next meeting so the state can take a position. Because what otherwise has happened in a number of instances is because an abstention is effectively a no, it's proved essentially impossible to get 11 votes, even though a clear majority of those who actually took a position wanted to talk about the subject. So I guess the question is for Jack.
What about the others?
So Mr. Priest had previously expressed that
At
they
this time, the
could.
state members would abstain because we haven't brought it back to the interagency group to have a review and discussion and come back and vote whether in the affirmative or negative.
Then I would suggest that we defer this until the next meeting so the state has a time to take a position and we are not hamstrung by the state legislatively imposed voting procedure.
Right, so what I thought what we had agreed to previously was we would bring these agenda items up and would basically leapfrog. So we'd bring them up, take it back to the interagency, have a decision at the following meeting. So,
No, that's good.
I thought you had indicated at a prior meeting that you didn't need to do that any longer.
I don't believe I said that, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack, I do remember you saying that at the previous
I
meeting.
think that was for that particular vote and topic at that time.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so.
I'd concur. It's okay with me, because I brought that one forward.
Well, you brought 3 of them, so if you're okay with your 3, Dr. Potvin, are you okay with holding off on your 1? So I will remind folks that we are waiving this section of the November meeting, so the next time to bring these items up will be January. So,
Yeah, we already did that. I don't think it would take a lot of time if we come back to just do a vote, to waive the reading and discussion of the agenda item and just put on the agenda for the next meeting a vote to approve agenda items for the January meeting. That's up to you, Kevin. It's just a suggestion.
so I can include a segment where we would vote only on these 4 items and not add any others in the interest of time, since we will be spending a lot of time at the next meeting on the NRC topic. So I will do that if that is.
That's great.
Okay. All right. So we can do that. All right. So that brings us into the next item on our agenda, that being a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Patrick O'Brien moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Little seconds that we adjourn, having concluding our business. I will go through the roll one more time. Patrick O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Kelly O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Dubois?
Yes.
Mr. Fortini?
Yes.
Mr. Lampert?
Yes.
Mrs. Lampert?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Dr. Potvin?
Yes.
Myself, yes, and Mr. Little?
Yes.
All right, it is unanimous. We are adjourned at 8:25. Thank you.